Hey, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. You know, one of the perks about having 4 kids that you know about is actually getting a direct line to the big man up north. And this year, he wants you to know the best gift that you can give someone is the gift of Mint Mobile's unlimited wireless for $15 a month. Now, you don't even need to wrap it. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Grief doesn't keep a calendar. Anxiety doesn't clock out after 5. Depression doesn't care if it's your busy season. But support can still fit into your life. With Grow, you can find a therapist who meets you where you are. They connect you with thousands of independent licensed therapists across the U.S., offering both virtual and in-person sessions. You can search by insurance, provider specialty, treatment methods, and more to find a therapist who works for you. And if it's not the right fit, switching is easy. There are no subscriptions, no long-term commitments. You just pay per session. Find therapy on your time. Evenings, weekends, and cancel up to 24 hours in advance at no cost. Whatever challenges you're facing, Grow Therapy is here to help. Sessions average about $21 with insurance, and some pay as little as $0 depending on their plan. Visit growtherapy.com/ACAST today to get started. That's growtherapy.com/ACAST. growtherapy.com/ACAST. Availability and coverage vary by state and insurance plan.
Dog owners, we love to spoil our pups. And more than anything, we want them to live long, healthy, comfortable lives. But here's the thing. A lot of us don't realize when our dogs are trying to tell us something's wrong. Constant paw licking, rubbing on the couch, or obsessively eating grass can all be signs of allergies. Because 90% of a dog's immune system lives in the gut, supporting digestion is key. That's where Better Wild Allergy Relief Soft Chews come in. These veterinarian-approved chews use an ancestral blend of wolf probiotics called Ancestral Advantage to strengthen your dog's natural defenses. Better Wild even offers chews for joint support, dental health, and a digestive meal topper, all science-backed solutions to help your dog feel their best. Right now, Better Wild is offering our listeners up to 40% off of your order at betterwild.com/podcast. That's betterwild.com/podcast for up to 40% off your order. betterwild.com/podcast.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here. Wishing you a very happy half-off holiday because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. And Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day, yeah? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Grief doesn't keep a calendar. Anxiety doesn't clock out after 5. Depression doesn't care if it's your busy season. But support can still fit into your life. With Grow, you can find a therapist who meets you where you are. They connect you with thousands of independent licensed therapists across the U.S., offering both virtual and in-person sessions. You can search by insurance, provider specialty, treatment methods, and more to find a therapist who works for you. And if it's not the right fit, switching is easy. There are no subscriptions, no long-term commitments. You just pay per session. Find therapy on your time. Evenings, weekends, and cancel up to 24 hours in advance at no cost. Whatever challenges you're facing, Grow Therapy is here to help. Sessions average about $21 with insurance, and some pay as little as $0 depending on their plan. Visit growtherapy.com/ACAST today to get started. That's growtherapy.com/ACAST. growtherapy.com/ACAST. Availability and coverage vary by state and insurance plan.
Hello, I'm Sarah, and welcome to the Whispering Woods Reddit and listener story episode. I've got 4 Reddit stories to share today, and I'll get straight into them. Are you ready? For the first story. The Unseen Classmate. This happened during our 4th year in high school. During our first class that afternoon, some of our classmates came in late, but our teacher didn't seem to mind. She just told them, "Hurry up," and then asked someone to close the door. What struck me as odd was that she didn't say who she was talking to, and no one really moved. Eventually, someone just got up and closed the door. I found it weird, but I ignored it. A few minutes later, the teacher started rechecking our attendance. She looked a bit confused, as if something didn't add up. She checked her list again, then asked us how many students were in the class. We gave her the correct number, the same number that matched her record book. But something still felt off to her. She said, "Maybe someone's just sitting in," suggesting that maybe a student from another class had joined just to listen. That's when many of us started speaking up. We told her that there was no sit-in student. We were sure. We all knew each other. Then the teacher thought it might have been one of her actual students who hadn't been showing up to class, which is why she didn't recognise her. So she looked around the room again, trying to figure out who it was. But the person she had seen earlier was gone. That's when things got really strange. The door had already been closed, and no one had left the room since the last student came in. The teacher looked confused and said, "She was one of the last to enter." I didn't get a good look at her face, but I remember her lipstick. I won't go into the full description she gave for privacy reasons, but as soon as she said it, most of us froze, and some even shouted in fear, because we all recognised who she was describing. It was one of our classmates from 3rd year. She had passed away just a few months earlier in an accident. The teacher didn't know her, because she had only started teaching us that year, so she hadn't met her before. That classmate wasn't exactly the most serious about school. She wasn't a bad person at all, just someone who would often miss school for days or even weeks at a time. A few days before she passed, one of our teachers had called her mum, warning that she might have to repeat the year if she kept being absent. After that, she started coming to school more regularly. But then, just like that, she was gone. We found out after class one day that she and her boyfriend had been in an accident and they didn't survive. That afternoon, when the teacher described seeing her, knowing the door was locked the whole time and no one left, it left all of us shaken, especially the teacher who saw her. It's quite an experience, honestly. A story that might not be scary, but surely I will never forget. This story kind of stuck with me a bit because it's the kind of thing that I imagine happening at my old comprehensive. And especially, I don't know what it was about the lipstick girl. Because I think when girls wear lipstick, especially nowadays, I would say, it's, I wouldn't say unusual, but it seems to be a bit more than when I was a kid. What I had in my mind's eye was really bright red lipstick, which is really, really distinctive. So if somebody said that, yeah, there was a girl here with really bright red lipstick, I think a lot of us would know, oh, that's so-and-so. And if something had happened to them, then it would be really significant that the teacher is talking about this person. If you get what I'm trying to say in a very bad way. And I can imagine how much that would have terrified the whole class, because there's not really any way around it, apart from it being the ghost of this girl. Are you ready for the second story? Oppression and sleep paralysis. So this starts out rather boring. A few years ago, I signed a lease on an apartment for my final years of university. It's a studio apartment, nothing special. The building itself is only notable for the fact that the architecture is so unremarkable. There's a modern high-rise across the street and a historic apartment building next door. When I first picked up my keys, the landlord's employee who gave them to me told me she lived in the building and that I could go to her if I ever needed anything after hours. This wasn't a sexual comment, as the property office closes at 3 on weekdays, noon on Fridays. Fast forward several months, and I'm noticing strange behaviour from her. She no longer says hello to me or any of the other tenants. She's complaining about loud noises coming from my apartment when I'm not home, and I've made sure all appliances are off or in power save mode. She would always wake up at an ungodly early hour, 4 a.m, have an extensive phone call, around 2 hours, then go back to sleep, only to wake up crying loudly around 9 a.m. This was a consistent pattern, 4 or 5 days a week. After the Christmas holiday, I receive a call from the landlord office asking me if I've had recent contact with this girl. I say no, as I've been in my home state for the holiday for over a week. The rep from the office says that she didn't properly prep the building before she left on the holiday, and there was a burst pipe, some ventilation damage, and other assorted issues. I returned to my apartment the day before New Year's Eve so I can celebrate with friends, and I run into her boyfriend on the front stoop of the building. He tells me he hasn't heard from her in a few days, which is unusual behaviour for her. We knocked on her apartment door. She immediately began shouting at us, screaming our names, even though we never identified ourselves, merely knocked. Her boyfriend left shortly thereafter. He was needed at work. I went into my unit to make dinner, but began to receive a flurry of rage-filled, hateful text messages from her number. Given the contrast of the violence in her messages, and what I perceived was her normal self, I was alarmed. I texted her boyfriend and called the landlord. The landlord said they would look into it when business resumed on January the 2nd. Her boyfriend texted me back several hours later, something about her dad was going to be visiting that following week. I shrugged off the angry texts and deleted them, as I had no intention of pressing harassment charges. Later that week, I see her father's truck in the lot behind the building while I was taking out garbage. I walk up, say hello, exchange a few pleasantries. I didn't notice right away that his pupils were quite small, even for a middle-aged man. Without attempting to be intrusive, I asked how his daughter was doing, just to be polite. At that moment, his demeanour changed profoundly, and he seemed in a hurry to leave the lot. Thinking nothing of it, I went back inside. Maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, I started having trouble sleeping, not just tossing and turning, but I would take sleeping pills and only get 6 hours of sleep every 2 days. It was a very difficult period. One night I decided to forgo the over-the-counter sleep aids to try and reset my body clock. As I lay there in the dark, I could see things moving in my apartment. People have said it was a trick of the light or something else. But the thing is, I used 2 layers of blackout curtains on each window, and I unplug all my electronics each night. There was nowhere for the light to come from in order to create this sort of shadow play. So I decided to lie still until I was able to finally fall asleep. At 3 a.m. I was woken by the sound of her crying. But this time it was more like howling. It was the most unsettling noise I've heard in my 2.5 decades on this planet. That semester, I was in a class with the boyfriend, who was a graduate student at the time. We became friends over the course of the semester, and he began to confide in me events that were more disturbing than what I had already experienced. Despite no personal or family history of mental illness, he told me that one evening, while they were out to dinner, she lied to him that she was pregnant. He, doing his best to cope with that knowledge, started talking with her about how they would raise the child. In his excitement, he rattled off to her a handful of baby names he was fond of. To his surprise, she had a strong dislike of one of the girls' names and became so enraged she stabbed herself in the hand with a steak knife. This information caught me totally off guard, and I was in disbelief. He told me that her parents drove from 4 hours away to check her into a mental hospital for the involuntary 72 hours. After that time was over, physicians couldn't pinpoint a clear diagnosis, so she was released without mandated supervision. As the semester wore on, her behaviour grew increasingly unhinged. I no longer spoke to her, but one time sneezed late at night, which angered her to the point she tried to file a noise complaint against me. That incident resulted in her being fined. By the time exams came around, I wanted to move out more than I wanted to pass any of my classes. After finals ended, she packed up her belongings and moved out. In an effort to be helpful, I carried a few boxes to the U-Haul she rented and had parked in the lot. Sitting on top, in one of the smaller boxes, I noticed a wooden board with the words yes and no branded on it, along with the English alphabet and numbers. It was a Ouija board. After she left, I lived in that apartment another year and never again encountered the strange shadow apparitions. Also, her replacement moved into the same apartment and on occasion would tell me that his apartment smelled rotten, like there was something dead in the walls. I never told him about seeing the Ouija board, but to this day, I suspect she had some sort of demonic attachment or oppression after treating the Ouija like a toy. And that negative energy bled into my apartment while leaving a permanent marker on the unit she inhabited. Very unsettling. Now, obviously, there are mental health issues in this story, but what about those shadows? Of course, we can say if you are an insomniac, you might be that tired that you're hallucinating. But with everything else, the conversations, the Ouija board, all of it sounds a bit too coincidental. I think you'll probably agree. Are you ready for the third story? I've thought about this day for years. I know this sounds crazy, but my boyfriend at the time and I were staying at my family member's cabin in the woods. There are other cabins around, and it is close to a local lake that a lot of people frequent, so I wouldn't say it was secluded in any way. It was around 5 a.m, and we were leaving so I could drive him to work. While we were going down the road, I caught something at the corner of my eye, so I slammed on my brakes. On the other side of the road was a creature, for lack of better words. It walked slowly out in front of my vehicle, just staring as if it didn't care that I saw it. It was huge, probably around 6 or 7 foot, and was hunched over with its arms dragging the ground, and extremely pale and skinny with its ribs showing. It was completely hairless, and even though my headlight shone on it, I don't remember making out what its face looked like. As it passed the front of my vehicle, it went behind someone's car at another cabin across the little dirt road I was on, which is the only way in or out. It watched as I drove away. After that day, I obviously refused to stay there, but my father did. He obviously didn't believe me until things started happening. My dad told me he heard something big running on the roof one night, and he went out to look and no one was there. On another occasion, he heard a loud knock on the bathroom window, which would have been impossible, considering the window is about 10 feet off the ground. Of course, he ran outside, and again, no one was there, and nothing that could have been used to reach that high. My ex and I were the only ones that ever saw it. I have thought about what I saw for years now, and it still perplexes me. Anyone have any insight on what I saw? I have been questioned. Why didn't you run over it? I didn't feel threatened by it. It's like it was just curious. Also, I was in shock. Things like that aren't supposed to exist. So what do we think it was? I personally think it was a rake. I love a good rake story. They just pop up out of nowhere. And interesting that something was on the roof. The dad must have been terrified after not believing. Must have been, please forgive me. There is something going on here. Are you ready for the fourth and final story? What happened to me? Hello, I'm a 24-year-old female, and here's a little backstory. I have always had some sense of the paranormal around me. Unexplained things have happened here and there, but were easily explained away. Recently, within the last week, I've started to do some research on demonology. I'm not sure if this is relevant information to the story I'm about to share, but it might be. Last night was the meteor shower that everyone has been talking about. My boyfriend and I live in Texas, and the city we were in didn't allow for us to see the stars very well. So we decided to go to a smaller town, about 40 minutes away from where we live. We've been to this town a handful of times before. We have been on this particular road a handful of times before. And we had driven past this lake a handful of times before. This town has a secluded back road that has many farmhouses and a huge lake. That's why we chose this spot to watch the meteor shower. We pull over and park about a mile past the lake. So the lake is a mile behind us. We're parked on the side of the road, and my boyfriend turns off his car so that it can be pitch black outside. His car has been off for a few minutes when we started to hear noises of water, It sounded like how water sounds when you're walking through it. Essentially just moving water. The sound was loud and came out of nowhere. I look up in front of the car and I see a man's face. There isn't a body, just a face. Now, this isn't too unusual for me. I have seen faces like this before, but it's never been accompanied by any sounds. I only see the face for a brief second before it's gone, and I get this awful feeling in the pit of my stomach and my back. I told my boyfriend that we needed to leave immediately. It felt like if we didn't, something bad would have happened to us. As soon as we left the area, I felt better almost immediately. I'm not sure why I did the next part, but I looked at the news for the area we were in. A man drowned in the lake 5 days ago. Naturally, I freaked out. I've always had suspicions of the paranormal being around me, but never like this. Like I previously mentioned, I have also started researching demonology. So I'm not sure if that has something to do with this being such an intense experience. Any advice, insight would be helpful. I'm just trying to make sense of all this and understand what my next step should be. Should I dive further into the paranormal world? Or would it be best to ignore it and move on?
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. You know, one of the perks about having 4 kids that you know about is actually getting a direct line to the big man up north. And this year, he wants you to know the best gift that you can give someone is the gift of Mint Mobile's unlimited wireless for $15 a month. Now, you don't even need to wrap it. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Grief doesn't keep a calendar. Anxiety doesn't clock out after 5. Depression doesn't care if it's your busy season. But support can still fit into your life. With Grow, you can find a therapist who meets you where you are. They connect you with thousands of independent licensed therapists across the U.S., offering both virtual and in-person sessions. You can search by insurance, provider specialty, treatment methods, and more to find a therapist who works for you. And if it's not the right fit, switching is easy. There are no subscriptions, no long-term commitments. You just pay per session. Find therapy on your time. Evenings, weekends, and cancel up to 24 hours in advance at no cost. Whatever challenges you're facing, Grow Therapy is here to help. Sessions average about $21 with insurance, and some pay as little as $0 depending on their plan. Visit growtherapy.com/ACAST today to get started. That's growtherapy.com/ACAST. growtherapy.com/ACAST. Availability and coverage vary by state and insurance plan.
I did wonder if perhaps it wasn't the person who had drowned in the lake. Maybe the person who drowned in the lake saw the same thing, and it terrified them so much they ran into the lake and then drowned. That's my reasoning. It could have been something like that, because if I saw something ahead coming out of a lake like that, I'd just run. I wouldn't look where I was running. I would just run. Well, that's it from me today. I hope you enjoyed, and we will catch you again tomorrow. Take care, everyone.
You know you've reached peak couple energy when your undies match. MeUndies Match Me has you both covered, literally, in super soft ultramodal undies, socks, PJs, and loungewear. Festive prints? Check. Cozy vibes? Double check. And right now, it's deal season. Get up to 50% off site-wide for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Take your couple game to the next level with MeUndies Match Me. To get deals up to 50% off, go to MeUndies.com/ACAST. Enter promo code ACAST. That's MeUndies.com/ACAST. Code ACAST.
For 25 years, Brightview Senior Living Associates have been committed to creating a vibrant culture and delivering exceptional services, making Brightview a great place to work and live. If you're looking for a rewarding opportunity to serve your local community and grow, we want you to join our team. Brightview Senior Living is growing and actively seeking vibrant associates to join our community teams, including directors, healthcare, activities, hospitality, and dining. Apply today at careers.brightviewseniorliving.com. Equal employment opportunities. Text BV Jobs to 97211 to apply.
From Adams Morgan to Anacostia Park, we all want safer neighborhoods. But what does real safety mean? Real safety means preventing crime before it happens. By having police work with communities to disrupt cycles of violence, by supporting families with stable housing, and providing more mental health and drug treatment. We know that adding more police and locking up more people doesn't make us safer. Real safety means investing in the things that help prevent crime. Learn more at Real Safety DC.
The stories told on the Whispering Woods are inspired by historical records, witness reports, and local folklore. While every effort is made to research and represent events accurately, some details, names, and locations may differ from official accounts or have been changed out of respect for those involved. These episodes are created for storytelling and entertainment purposes and should not be considered definitive fact or investigative journalism.